TYFU.
Are you ready for season 3?
I feel like there should be a drum roll. Maybe it's too early for a drum roll, but no, it's never too early. Kelly?
Hook us up, Kelly.
Now I'm ready for season 3.
Welcome back to the Red Room Studio.
Welcome back. Do you feel rejuvenated?
I do. I had a stellar Christmas.
Yes.
It started slow.
Oh my God.
And I was in a real panic. How was it for you?
Same. Christmas, I mean, the last year as a whole was a nail biter for me. And then Christmas was my shred of hope to get me to where I needed to be for the year. And it started so, sorry, Mom, goddamn slow. Like I thought it was going to be all over but the hollering. And it almost was, but I feel like in the last 2 weeks, everybody remembered that Christmas was coming.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if it was that it was an election year. So like we were a little distracted.
The legend of the
country
election
was
years.
distracted. Yeah. And then Thanksgiving came late.
Right. What the heck was up with that?
Right. So the whole season was kind of compressed. I think that people thought that they had all the time in the world, and then all of a sudden they remembered, there's a holiday and Mom needs a present. Or
yeah, it was a strange rhythm this year. Overall, I don't know that I had any stinkers. I don't know that I had any like wildly stressful moments this holiday season. What about you? Did you have any like memorable moments?
Not really. I mean, there was only a few moments, like because the rhythm seemed off this year, there were some days that I was just ridiculously overstaffed.
Right.
And other days, like a random Tuesday where I was ridiculously understaffed.
Yes.
And I just couldn't seem to get my grip around the season. It was a weird one.
Yeah. And then, of course, you buy all your Christmas inventory and the shopkeepers are going to, I hope, resonate with this. Maybe it's just us. But you buy all your Christmas inventory in the fall and you tell yourself, I'm only buying this. And when it's gone, it's gone. If I didn't buy enough, it serves me right.
Yes. I remember you and I didn't see much of each other during Christmas.
No.
And I remember we did run into each other one day and we were like, are you going to reorder? And I'm like, no. And you're like, I'm not going to reorder either. And then we both reordered to stock our stores at the end.
Yeah. And guess who has Christmas merchandise left over?
Yeah.
Me. Me.
I think it is better to have too much than too little, but that's always a balance too.
Yeah, so we survived Christmas. We survived. I mean, really, gosh, we have so much to catch up on. And I do feel like we haven't seen each other or talked that much, which is the only reason we're having a season 3. We just
Yes. It's all going to be December. It's all going to be just catching up on what happened in December and January.
Yeah, and yeah, we have to unpack Small Business Saturday, I think.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things from season 2, like...
Oh, yeah. Let's reminisce a little.
Yeah, because I had noticed all through the Christmas season, I was faced with some different decisions, such as advertising decisions or managing staff. And I found myself hearkening back to season 2 and things that we had talked about, questions that our listeners had written in with, and moments where I had to say to myself, what would podcast Beth and Marilla say?
Beth and Marilla say, yes.
And it really, the podcast, I feel like, is making me a little bit more accountable. Like, I got to put my money where my mouth is when I'm making decisions about advertising or managing hours or employees or interacting with customers. So that's been interesting.
That is interesting. Like, if you don't take your own advice, we now have proof. Yeah, I would agree. I feel the same way in certain interactions with certain decisions. It's definitely interesting to think back on. And you said it with listener questions. Some of those listener questions or some of the listener stories we've gotten.
Right. You started a Threads account for us.
Yeah.
And that has really
Yeah, it's been so cool to find even more people that are enjoying the podcast and then sharing their stories. And this season, we're going to be able to share a lot more.
Yeah, from the community.
From the community, which, we wanted to do from the start, but we only knew 5 people in the beginning. So now,
that's another thing. Like, not to tangent, but we hit a milestone. We had 10,000 downloads while we were down, while we were in between seasons,
yes.
And that was really exciting. So thank you to all the listeners,
yes,
for helping us get there.
Yeah, because we know some of you just listened to one episode 7 times, and that's okay. We still appreciate it. Yeah, it was a big season. Season 2 was a big season of growing and showing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that all happened while we were, not just Christmas. Well, all that kind of happened while we were away between season 2 and season 3.
Yes. And we're not canceled, and we're not fighting, and we're not quitting. If you're just joining us now, we take this break between Small Business Saturday and Christmas, New Year's to regroup because it's a crazy time. We're both shop owners. So
yes, and then we want a little vacation in January, and
we want to miss each other a little bit, Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's what they say.
And now a word from our sponsor.
So, Beth.
Yes, Marilla.
I was posting on Instagram, and I have to say, our recording space is just beautiful.
The Red Room Studio?
Yes, you have a way with decorating.
Well, thanks.
Not everybody can do that. But if you're looking for a great location to decorate your space, you should check out Axom Home in Rochester.
Axom.
It's a destination for modern furniture and accessories to make your home reflect your own unique style.
Furniture?
Axom's got it.
Vases?
Axom's got it.
Vases?
Axom's got it.
Clocks?
They've got it. It's a great place for people with a great sense of design but don't want to pay for a designer.
Find it at Axom in the heart of the South Wedge in Rochester, New York, and online at axomhome.com. So anyway, we did all the stuff. We did all the Christmas, we did all the growing, we did all the showing, and now we're ready to do some ripping.
Yeah.
And
some
the
dishing.
First envelope.
I see what you're doing.
Of season 3.
Yes. Maybe is another drum roll too much?
We'll see how much we can put this man through.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you in advance, Kelly. Okay. Drum roll and envelope ripping. And the topic is events.
Ding, 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 ding. Events. We know them. We love them.
We love some of them.
We love to hate them.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hate them.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to love them. I'm already unpacking my trauma. We haven't even started. Anyway, go ahead, Beth.
Well, I mean, I think we landed on this particular topic for this particular episode because of Small Business Saturday. Like, we dipped out of the podcast season 2 right before Small Business Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think it was that very week that you came over to my house in your pajamas, basically,
Yes.
in a panic.
Yeah.
Because
Called an emergency meeting.
Yes, right.
I called an emergency coffee meeting that needed to happen in the next 24 hours.
Yes.
I think I told you, like, this has to happen within 24 hours.
Yes. I was like, well, okay, let me stop everything, Marilla.
Yep. And make some pumpkin brownies. She did.
Okay, back up. Tell the listener what happened. Why was there emergency meeting needed?
Okay, we're going to just start out piping hot. Every year for the past 3 years at my establishment, I have organized a neighborhood chili contest amongst the small businesses. So the way it goes is each small business makes a pot of chili, and then customers and curious passersby. Yeah, curious
passerbyers
can pop their heads in and taste the chili, and you get a list with everybody who's on it so that you can see who's got chili, and you
travel
wander
around
town and you pick your favorite. And it's become a fun thing. You know, nobody has to go out of their way. The only thing you have to do is make some chili, and it's a big old time. Every year there have been people who love this, and there have been people who critique. It's not been without contention. Every year, there's people that love the way it works, and then there's some people that are like, next year, you should just blah, blah, blah. And that's okay. I listen to them. I do not judge them. And then I do not implement
They
any
judge
of their...
you. They judge the
they
chili.
judge me. They judge the chili. I do not implement any of their suggestions, as is my way. No. So anyway, this is 3 years running. We're going to edit all this out. This year, I start making my rounds, recruiting the small businesses in the neighborhood, because I always, check in with the people who've done it before, see if they still want to, and try to catch any new businesses to kind of get them in the loop. So I started doing my rounds. I get about, I want to say it was like 20 businesses in Geneva that said yes. And then about a dozen in the South Wedge, where my other store is, in Rochester, which is great. It was great. We're prepping this. I'm marketing this. It's about a week and a half away. And one of my employees comes up to me and says, hey, did you hear that voicemail? Somebody from the health department is calling. And he's really upset about the chili contest. And I said, what now? Because when we started this 3 years ago, I had talked to my health department guy. We all have one. And he had said, it's all fine. You're not charging for the chili. You're not forcing chili down anyone's throats, blah, blah, blah.
You're not dumping sewage waste into the chili.
Not intentionally,
Yeah,
So, he wasn't too worried about it. This was 3 years ago. I just went on my merry way. And 3 years later, here's this guy on my voicemail having a meltdown. You can't just have a chili competition willy-nilly and let the public just taste chili made in people's kitchens. You have no idea if that's safe. And I heard you've been doing this for years, and I can't imagine how you got the clearance for this, and blah, blah, blah. This is a voicemail. He really let the voicemail have it. So I call him back, and we will protect his identity and call him Josh. So I call him back. I said, hey, Josh, what are we going to do about this? Well, I wish I could do something. I wish I could help you, but I just can't see my way around it. You have to have everyone participating, do paperwork, and get a permit, or cancel the chili competition.
So you're a week and a half out.
You
have done a lot of promoting of it.
Yes, and don't you know, this is the year that I thought, okay, we're 3 years in. I've always done this very homemade. This year,
I'm going to put some real money behind it.
Put some real money behind it and support a local business and have posters made by this wonderful letterpress business, Posey Letterpress. Beautifully designed, textured. Thick paper. Just exquisite. Luxurious.
Custom.
Yes. And we worked together. She was so gracious. She gave me a deal. She worked with our budget. She delivered these 50 posters as I was listening to the raging voicemail from the health department guy calling to completely shut down the whole operation. I don't even think the ink on the check was dry that I had written this lovely woman. So yeah, I now had 50 posters in my hand and a doomed chili contest in my voicemail. So I immediately get on the phone. I immediately got on the phone, sat down on the floor, grabbed a cardboard box, got on the phone with the health department, and I start like, oh, we don't want to see this canceled. I know you want to help me out. He did not want to help me out. And I spent probably 45 minutes on the phone with this man trying to like coerce him and just blatantly work around the rules, but like trying to do it together. Mm-hmm. He
like, what about the church bake-off? What about the lemonade stand?
What
like,
about a cookie bake sale?
Yeah. How do all these things work?
Potluck.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
We're not locking Granny up for a potluck.
Josh might be.
He could be. Yeah.
Yes.
He did say he would if he knew it was happening.
Oh my gosh.
But I chose not to blow the whistle on any local potlucks. Decided to take one for the team. Anyway, I spent probably close to an hour with this guy trying to come up with a solution. And I said, okay, I am just going to chew on this. And I was like, and you think about it too. And this was a Friday. We'll touch base on Monday and see what we've come up with. Yeah. Josh, you and me, buddy, working on this together.
Mm-hmm. For the sake of the community.
For the sake of the children who love beans. So I hung up the phone with Josh. I went home. I raged about it righteously.
Okay, but let's back it up a little bit. The health department is concerned because technically you can't be serving food that's made in home kitchens because there might be cockroaches or poop, or there might be I might be just
human teeth,
dropping big loogies into the boiling chili, and no one wants that. And that's what Josh is afraid of.
That's what he's afraid of because everybody does that. So yes, that's what he's afraid of. And for some reason, the context seemed to make that threat more imminent than a potluck.
Didn't Josh suggest to you at one point that it needed to be judged? And you said, well, everybody in the community is judging. That is the whole point of it.
Yeah, he said we could make it in our home kitchens if we had assigned judges that were going to come around and judge, which that doesn't help us because the whole point of this is to get the most people in these stores.
We got 500 judges.
Right. And so he says, if you have a certain amount of judges, you can make it at home just as long as you have judges. I said, okay, how many judges? And he starts stuttering. He's like, well, I mean, maybe. I said, no, really. How many judges does the law say I need to have, Josh? Because my customers are the judges, and I will happily give them a little badge that says I'm an official judge before they taste the chili. Well, that's not the intention of the law.
He said that's not the spirit or something?
That's not the intention of the law.
Oh, okay.
That is not the intention of the law. I said, okay, well, what is the intention of the law? Because if we can't define it, I'll see you in court, Josh. I was ready to die for this chili competition, but I just figured it might be inconvenient to my business and my husband if I did go to jail over this. So
also, it's November. You got other things to worry about.
Right. I went home and I raged. I didn't cry. And I said at one point, or no, my husband Joe said at one point, well, what are we going to do? Have a chili sniffing competition? And I stopped dead in my tracks. I was like, wait, we could. We could have a chili sniffing competition. Why couldn't we? And Joe's looking at me like I'm crazy. But my wheels are turning and I'm like, okay, if we do this where the contest part of the chili is just sniffing it, then eating it is not a part of it and we can run with this. But I'm immediately thinking, how am I going to convince other businesses that aren't me that this is a good idea and not just total insanity, and that I haven't lost my mind. And it was at that moment I thought I should check with Beth, because if anyone's going to say that I'm a lunatic and have lost my mind, it's Beth. So that is when I messaged you and I was like, hey, what are you doing right now at 11:30 p.m.? Busy? Okay, how about tomorrow at 8 a.m. in the morning? And I'm pretty sure that's when I showed up.
Yeah.
It was like 8.
It was early.
It was early. It was an early meeting.
And you told the story basically just as you've told it now to me. And you said, what do you think about a chili sniffing competition?
Right, because I felt like if I could run it by you and get your honest thoughts, if you didn't think it was impossible, then I could sell it to anybody. Like I could go and do it. I could float it. There's a lot riding on this, Beth.
Of course, I want to support you in all your endeavors. Even if it is something as ludicrous as a chili sniffing competition.
Yes.
I'm not sure, Marilla, if I'm being honest, that I was making the smartest decision when I told you, yes, you should do this. I think I told you, yes, you should do this because I was pissed.
Right.
Like, come on. Like, there are many exceptions.
So many
exceptions to where this feels right.
Right.
And if the only thing is like standing between this event happening or not happening is 20 businesses getting a permit,
yeah,
then really is it about safety? Is it about public safety then?
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Here's the kicker that I left out. The only reason Josh called me was because the health department received an anonymous call from someone in Geneva that ratted out the chili competition.
Right.
And they called and they said they were so concerned about public safety. And so as much as I like to rib Josh, he was responding to a
complaint
to these rats.
Right.
There, I said it.
I don't know, like, because we can't be sure who the rat was, although you and I both had some.
Well, we have our suspicions.
Because we can't be sure, we have to wonder also, like, is their motivation because they're truly concerned about health and safety?
Right.
Or something more petty.
Malicious.
Even.
Perhaps. Well, this is what I'm thinking as I'm thinking about like what we do with this sniffing thing. The knee-jerk reaction is to be so angry that someone called it in.
Yes.
And then be so angry that Josh is being the party pooper. Mm-hmm. But as I thought about this chili sniffing idea, it was like, okay, if I can get past being angry about this person calling and I can get past Josh doing his job.
Darn it, Josh.
Darn it, Josh. Even if he does sound like a nerd. We could come up with something that skips over the negativity, because I didn't want to come out and say, I mean, I didn't want to cancel it, but I really didn't want to come out and say, oh, guys, the chili contest is canceled because the health department says we can't do it. Because then, you know, I would still have a good day at my business. People would come out in droves to support this poor business who's just being held down by the man. But I didn't want that kind of negative energy to drum up that negative energy. Right. And so after I processed the rage of it, that's why I was kind of like, maybe this sniffing thing is a good way to skip the rage and like channel that energy into something funny and
like
absurd.
Completely goofy.
Like so goofy.
Just go over the top goofy. Right. And yes, it's ludicrous. And sorry, I know it smells great, but no, you can't taste it. It's poison. It's toxic.
Poison. It's literally inedible. That morning we were like, okay, but get past your rage. Mm-hmm. Then what?
Yes, we all know this is bullshit. But now what? Yes.
But now what? And I think that,
Well, also, it's not bullshit. Like, this is what we're paying Josh to do.
right.
His citizens.
And
He's
you know what?
He's trying to protect us.
Maybe he's a fresh young buck in the health department, and
Yes.
this is his first chance.
And he cares about public health. God bless him.
Right.
God
This
bless him.
First chance to keep poop out of the chili. Come on, you only get that chance once.
Well,
or
apparently
maybe
every year. If
every
we have
year
a
for me.
chili competition.
But anyway, I think when I really stopped to think about it, talking about like our enemies, like there's two options for this anonymous caller. Either it's an enemy that wishes me ill and is trying to thwart my endeavors. Mm-hmm. And in that case, they would want me to be mad.
Yes.
They would want us to have to cancel.
Yes.
They would want us to have to jump through the hoops. Mm-hmm. Or it's just someone who is feeling like there's a lot in this world that they can't control right now, and a lot of things that feel unsafe. And this was one shred of a moment that they felt like they could control and feel safer by doing.
Yes.
And that person, they did what they needed to do for their own mental health. The other person, I hope they enjoy all the sniffing bullshit that happened after that, because as soon as you said it was a good idea, it just got sillier. Like, it just got even crazier.
It got goofier and goofier and goofier.
Oh my God. Yeah. So in the next, Beth told me it was okay. And then, and then in the next 24 hours, I recorded a video, which you can find on our social media.
Oh, yeah, that was a funny video.
Oh, it was a news release.
Yes.
Letting people know that, you know.
They were under threat. And
They were under threat.
that the courts had stepped in.
The courts had stepped in. And we moved forward with this sniffing, the world's first chili sniffing competition. And it ended up being our best Small Business Saturday ever. Our weirdest chili contest ever. But in the end, it worked out for Beth at Stomping Grounds.
Yeah, I've consistently lost the chili competition every year.
Yeah, really, like, thoroughly, too.
Thoroughly,
like, I
yeah.
love you, but yeah, you
Okay, fine.
haven't been close.
But this year, I was like,
My jaw hit the floor, guys. Like, the underdog just took it.
yeah, I won the chili sniffing competition. I had a strategy.
Yeah, can we talk about that now? Or are you going to keep
I'm not going to reveal what my strategy was.
Right. Because now, are we going to keep...
Are we going to keep it a chili sniffing competition?
I have a mind to keep it a chili sniffing competition because honestly, you folks at home, it didn't go that poorly.
Yeah.
You know, for the retail
Which
shops.
is bonkers.
Yeah, bonkers. For the retail shops that didn't have kitchens, we had little pots of chili that you could only sniff by penalty of, you couldn't eat at all. It was illegal to taste it. You could only sniff it. But then half the businesses participating had kitchens. So you could, after you sniffed it, you could taste it.
Theoretically, yeah.
At their
wanted to.
places if you wanted to. So all's well that ends well. And I don't know if Josh came down to smell
You
my
invited
chili.
him. I think you sent him a card, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I sent him a card from Stomping Grounds. I sent him a card that said, "Thank you for being essential." So yeah, that event aged me probably 2 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad we have a lot of time to think about what we're going to do to either keep dialing up the volume on sniffing.
Yeah.
Or revamp it in some other way that makes more sense. I have to say my only complaint about it is I did kind of get tired of explaining it to people who weren't in touch with your social media campaign.
We need a crier.
Yeah.
We need a town crier, perhaps Kelly. Perhaps Kelly Walker. We need a town crier. Maybe 7 to 10 hours a week leading up to the chili competition.
Hitting just going around town.
Yeah,
hitting every neighborhood.
Hitting the neighborhoods, getting up on a box, reading from a scroll,
Yeah. Proclaiming.
Proclaiming.
You got me a nice trophy. And I don't know if the Rochester winner got that or if it's just the Geneva winner.
No. We do. We give out a trophy. There's a trophy guy. There's a small business. One of my neighbors is an engraving business, and they have trophies, and they do that for all the local bowling teams and sports teams. And what I do is I like to go down and ask him if he has any old, ugly trophies that people have given him in the back. Mm-hmm. And he usually has a couple. And we clean them up.
Well, mine is freaking majestic, and I want to tell
it really is.
Listeners.
We'll post it on our social media.
Yeah, it's on the Stomping Ground social media now.
Yeah. But it's, it's important. And it was a world's first. And we made it into the newspaper. And the mayor of Rochester came to our store to interview us about it. And he stopped in all the other stores too. And it was a big deal. And the stores were like, did you know the mayor is here? I said, yeah, it's for the chili sniffing competition. So yeah, it was absurd. And I love having the memories. But like I said, I do think I sprouted a few more gray hairs just because it was so fast. Oh my God, it was so fast.
Now, I'm going to tell you a secret thought I had maybe the day or two before the chili sniffing competition.
She wears this so well. She's so beautiful.
That was one of them when I was... That was one of them. The other thought was, frickin' Marilla got to do this frickin' contest. It's Thanksgiving, it's Black Friday, it's Small Business Saturday, and I'm trying to come up with an
award-winning
aromatic chili. So I did get a little bit like frickin' Marilla about it. And it made me even think to myself, why are we even having an event on Small Business Saturday? And why do we even ever do events? And events are such bullshit. I'm so sick of events. And I want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think that's
events is a wider concept.
I think that's a good segue. I think that was a lovely segue. Yeah. I love that. Because to tell you the truth, I feel the same way. Events are just such a pain in the butt sometimes. And like you want to do them and you want to provide them. And people sometimes when you are a space expect you to provide them. But you don't always feel excited about it as a business owner because it is exhausting in addition to all the work that you have to do within your business hours. You don't have to do all this extra work.
Yeah, sometimes you might plan an event at your place of business and it will be beyond business hours. You know, like a First Friday type thing. Like, so you're there from like 8 a.m. Well, not you. You're there from what, 10:59?
I roll out about at 10:30 a.m.
Some of us get there early and then you've got to close and then you host the event, whether it's the book signing or it's the art walk or whatever it happens to be, the special class.
The workshop.
Yes. And it takes a lot out of you. And sometimes it doesn't even pay off for you, much less you're visiting an artist or, you know, if you have an author in for the, there's nothing more awkward than having a special event and hosting an artist or a author or whatever, a small maker.
Yeah.
And then just not having any traffic.
Nobody shows up. Oh my God. We've all been there. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've planned an event and no one has showed up. It's not anybody's fault, really.
Sometimes it's literally the weather.
Sometimes it's literally the weather. Actually, yes. I had an event in 2024. I want to say it was like February or March. It was about mindful breath work.
Thank you, Marilla.
Right?
Thank you for offering that.
You're welcome. And she's lovely. She does a wonderful job. Like, think yoga, think meditation, like teaching, especially right now when people are feeling anxious about one thing or the other, you know, teaching us how to take control of our breath, essentially just take a deep breath, but learn how to do it better. But maybe you're not doing it right. Sorry, Adrian. But she was coming in. Everybody was excited. And it was a snowstorm. Snow and ice. And And bless her, she showed up and we went live and we recorded a little tutorial. But I mean, I felt so bad.
Yeah.
No one came out, and it wasn't anyone's fault. I mean, it was icy and snowy and dark and cold, and that, what can you do? Thinking about ice and snow, devastating events, made me hearken back, as we often do, to your story about, like, you had an event that was heavily impacted by snow and ice. Like,
yes, I did.
Way trumps mine. So just take it away.
Okay.
Just stomp all over my story.
Right. Oh, well, there's room for so many stories. Yes. So what was the situation? I think it was in my first store. So this was pre-stomping grounds.
Pre-stomping grounds.
And
BS.
there was a fire. There was a fire above the building next to mine, adjacent to mine. And it's a main street block. So there was next to me a Chinese restaurant. There were apartments above. It was winter. It was, I think, actually maybe February, right around this time of year, where I was woken up in the night, looked down the street, store's on fire.
Great.
Yes, yeah, go out.
You decided to throw a party.
So, long story short, extreme devastating loss. And then there's the rebuilding,
emerging from the ashes, the phoenix rises.
Right. It was a big deal, obviously, because my store was completely waterlogged.
Oh my God.
And the inventory was gone, and the customer base was gone, and I needed to put a store back together.
Literally reborn. Like totally starting.
Kind of. I mean, the address was the same, but yeah, we were starting over. And so we had pulled together a new store and then spent the last of my money. Because, you're always waiting for the insurance check.
The last couple farthings.
We've talked about this before. Like when there's a disaster in a business, not to go on. I mean, we did this episode, the disasters episode we did.
Episodes. It's in there.
Right. So when there's a disaster and people are like, well, I hope they have insurance. You might have insurance, but it takes a long time for that check to be written to you.
So long that people almost forget about you. Mm-hmm. Or at least we feel that way.
Yes.
But I think I think it's true. I think it's human nature. Like you have to be quiet for a long time while you're fixing up
rebuilding
your place. And so, I mean, that's, I think, what leads to, I mean, that's why I think it's smart for you to take the next step, which was, okay, we're reopening. Are you just going to like flip your lights on and say, yes, we're open?
Yeah, you have to do an event around it, which is how this ties in. Right. So I had a reopening event.
Right.
And we planned, we advertised, we invested. I had a bunch of food. I rented out the cafe immediately next door.
Like you got it catered?
Yes, ma'am. I sure did.
Girl.
And I spent a lot of money advertising it and putting it all together. And the morning of the reopening and of this grand event, there was an ice storm.
Oh,
and so there was no power. There was a state of emergency. Like nobody was allowed out of their houses.
They weren't allowed to come to your party.
Right. And there was,
oh my God.
It was just a really bummer event. Honestly,
that party sucked.
I know. I mean, there was it was ridiculous. There was decorations. There was streamers. It was like a lot
sandwiches, like little
rolled up meat type things,
like pinwheel kind of situation. Those little
dips and breads and cheeses and fruits and
that sounds amazing.
What do we call this? Like a board?
Yeah, like a charcuterie board, perhaps.
Yes, maybe there was some desserts, little cupcakes or little
nibbles
brownies
here and there.
Yes, it wasn't like a 7-course meal or anything, but it was enough food to accommodate the
entire community to come in.
The dozens and dozens of people that I expected to see for that event.
Like when you put in when you start to plan your own event, like you've got all the skin in the game. It's not like when the city plans an event and you're like, well, we'll see what happens. We hope it's going to be busy. When you plan your own event, your grand opening, your reopening, you've got skin in the game, and you got to make it a big deal.
This is not the time that I'm going to cry on the podcast. But
not in episode one of season 3.
But I will say that if I was ever gonna cry on the podcast, this might be one of the memories that would trigger that because it was so devastating.
I cannot.
The fire, the shutting down, all the emotional, like grueling, diving deep into your black, cold soul.
Yeah, and like
Heinz tea.
this is
to find the strength to go on and make a little like cheese board.
Right, and make a cheese board. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like sometimes when you have to throw an event as a small business owner, you're throwing that event because something really devastating,
fucking shitty,
really fucking
terribly
shitty happened to you. But the only person who can turn that around and put lipstick on that pig is you as the business owner. And so, that's what it kind of, what did you do?
We just had a lot of food and we shared it with the people who were around, you know.
Because it's an ice storm. So you basically became heroes.
So there was power outage for the better part of a week.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just fed the community.
Yes.
Did anyone buy anything?
No.
Oh,
no.
No, of course not. That would be gauche.
No.
Wow. Man, did you reschedule?
No.
I just didn't have
like
you don't have the heart
or the money. Yeah.
Right.
So that was a million years ago. And
it made me think of that though.
Yeah. When you mentioned ice, I'm not going to lie. I thought of it.
You had the trauma like slowly boiling. Yeah. It's amazing. Like to think about how much work you put into some of those big, like, milestone events. And then to think about an act of God saying, no, not today. That's demoralizing.
That's a kick in the teeth.
Did you think perhaps you were meant to be a author at that point? Maybe get into skydiving, just something else?
No.
Like, were there doubts ever?
There's been doubts every day, but to be fair, like it wasn't all about me. It turns out. The restaurant next door had gotten a lot worse damage. The apartment upstairs above that was completely lost. I was able to reopen, and then the whole state was affected by this ice storm.
That ice storm.
There was a lot more than just me suffering, but it was a bummer.
But it's really crazy that your event is the reason the ice storm happened. That's what's really wild.
I know. Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, events, they can really rock you.
I feel like part of the angle that a brick and mortar can offer against, the internet shopping experience are special things like this. Right. Meeting the makers, engaging with the authors, having your book signed in my store, things like that. Doing a framing tutorial, hands-on. That's what separates us from online stores. Right. But if the people don't show up,
it's so hard.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. And sometimes, for a long time, we do our best to make sure that we have a lot of free options. We've also done some to pay. That's also a big question because you want to be accessible, but you also want people to make money. But you also might not have extra money to devote to paying someone to come in and educate the community. But yeah, sometimes it feels icky to charge people to come in, even though, I don't know. There's so many layers of event planning, and I go back and forth. I guess my my short answer is I want to be able to do it, but I feel like I don't always have the bandwidth to make it happen. And then I think, okay, I have staff that's taking care of all this other stuff for me. Why don't I have the bandwidth? Grow up, Marilla. Get to
you're just
it.
lazy, Marilla.
I'm
That's
just
what it
lazy.
is.
Yeah. And then I lay down and cry.
Well, you might not have the bandwidth. I also struggle with the space. Like, where am I going to, if I do get a good turnout, where am I going to put 20 people? Where am I going to put 20 chairs if it's a sit down lecture kind of thing? Where am I going to put a workspace if it's a workshop type thing? Like, you got to.
This was the other thing. And this episode is just going to be us complaining.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we do best on this show.
But that's the other thing. I felt like I couldn't win in a sense. This is going to sound really bratty. Because
Bring it.
Because, okay, for as much as this past year, we had really hit or miss interest, like one workshop, everybody was available and they could come and woohoo, it was a lot of fun. And the next one, nobody showed up. That was 2024. The years prior to that, when I was having events, and I only had my Geneva shop, my teeny tiny, long, narrow Geneva shop, I was getting like 15, 20 people, 25. Then the fire marshal starts to get a little nervous because I'm getting too many people in my store.
If it's not Josh, it's
if it's not
Ted,
Josh, it's Ted. So I was having a problem because I had so much interest in these little events that I had to find other spaces. And then it's a matter of like traveling
and paying sometimes for those spaces.
Paying. Thankfully, we have a lot of community spaces that are accessible for us, but that's a whole nother layer of planning.
So what about when we've talked about in-store events, just you. We've talked about, when businesses rally together to do something like a chili taste-off or something like that.
Sniff off.
We sniff off. In the old days, we did Geneva Night Out, which was a First Friday kind of walk-around thing.
Yes.
That was businesses banding together to do
Which
that.
I was a hater for that, by the way.
Well,
you were an organizer.
I was. I was on the founding committee. But do tell what you hated about it.
We were just on the butt side of town, which I'm still on the butt side of town, but where I worked at the time was on the butt side of town before the butt side of town got kind of cool. And so we never really saw anyone come in. And so then it was just a long night and I was 18 and I had to spend 3 hours with some old guy selling cherry sorbet and not talking to me. All because Beth came in and said I had to.
Yeah. That was a tough one. I mean, sometimes for Geneva Night Out in its early days, when people were really enjoying and hungry for First Friday type events, like we'd get huge crowds for that. But then after you do the same thing month after month after month, year after year after year, it becomes harder to find a new, fresh artist or to get the momentum that maybe you had in the early days. So
and people's rhythms and lifestyles change. I think it comes in waves. I really think
support local comes in waves.
Oh my God,
does it? Like
started
every once in a while, people are like, "Yeah, I'm canceling my Prime." I heard that a lot this year. But then 6 months from now, they're like, "Oh, I really miss my Prime."
I actually think. I don't know, tangent, but I actually think I experienced a little bit of the opposite. I feel like I experienced a big bump during pandemic times of shop local. And then I feel like last year I experienced a lot of people like, oh God, I don't have time for that shopping local thing.
Yes.
And now, just now, I'm starting to feel like we're in a season again where people are like, okay, I'm trying to wean myself off of, he who shall not be named. And I'm trying to wean myself off of these big marketplaces and looking. They're going the extra mile to shop small.
Yeah,
so
I feel like it comes in and out of people's consciousnesses depending on what's going on. And
so will it be a good year for events? Beth, can you tell me? Because I want to know.
I feel like we are kind of coming up on another crest of shop local.
I think we are.
Being good.
God damn.
So, unfortunately for us, that means more work. But
Womp, womp.
yeah, I mean, obviously we're just joking. We love when shop local's in vogue, and we're promoting it all the time. And part of the reason that we host these events is to remind people that local shops create and support community. Right. So that's why we do this.
Right.
I think maybe we should have started with that.
You mean we shouldn't
Before we just
started
complained
with
about
an
it.
hour of bitching? Come on. Yeah, it is a tricky thing. So what events are you what events are you going to do this year, Beth?
Well, I might talk about this later on in future episodes, but I think I'm going to be absorbing a neighboring space, which is a big open space.
Yes.
And if I manage to do that, I got to knock on some wood. Ready?
Yeah,
I haven't done that this season.
Oh, the first episode.
Yes.
Love that.
If I'm able to pull that off, I might be able to have some different and exciting new events because it's just a big white box right now.
You know what I want you to do?
What?
I would like you to have a drawing class where you have a nude model.
Okay. This is just an excuse for you not to wear clothes someplace, right? You're like volunteering yourself?
But yes, I could. I mean, I guess I would.
That would be awkward for me. I mean,
to be fair, it would be awkward for me as well, but I would do it for you, Bev.
I mean, I've seen almost the whole thing at this point.
It's true.
Season 3.
Season 3. Maybe this could also be our live episode where we could take.
That's right.
Where we could take listener questions. Yeah. We'll workshop that.
Yeah.
It'll be an event. It's fine.
Because as you recall, when we were like workshopping podcast ideas,
Yes.
you wanted to do them all naked. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I did think that would be a really funny. I'm telling you, my nudie tendencies run deep.
You tried to talk me into
A video
filming every recording.
with like a towel, like from the shoulders up. So no one knew if we were clothed or not. Honestly, I don't regret that idea, and I
shot it down for some reason. Yeah.
I still think it's a good idea.
Okay,
and Kelly agrees with me.
Season 3.
Right, Kelly?
Anything could happen.
And it's silent, but I'm going to take that as a yes.
So lastly, I mean, we've talked about group events between businesses. We've talked about solo events in our own shops. I want to talk about when your city puts on an event. Or some outside entity comes into your city to put on an event.
Yeah, how do we take it on the chin, Beth? Do we take it nobly and
Sometimes we do.
with grace?
And sometimes we get a petition started and we get every other downtown business to sign it, and then we take it to city council. I've done that before.
I remember that too.
Yeah, remember that?
Ooh, I liked that one.
You liked the event, or you liked my
I liked
rage?
your petition. I liked
Yeah.
the rage. Yeah. So when the city, that's an evolving answer. When the city that you're in decides to do an event, we want to know, how does that make you feel? Mm-hmm. Do you jump in like both feet? Like, are you the person who's like totally on board, or are you picketing the event?
Boycotting it.
Boycotting the event. Which are you, and why are you? Why? Like, what makes it
I think
one and not the other?
For me, it does the business, or does the event benefit my business, or does it actually actively hurt my business? I mean, that's
Right.
really,
That's what it boils down to.
If it's a net zero, I'm in because I like community and I
Right.
want to support the community.
Right.
So one time there was an event from an outside promober that took over downtown on a very busy, should have been a very busy Saturday for me. But basically made it absolutely impossible for anybody to reach my business.
That makes me crazy.
And sales were down 90% on a day that I was counting on.
That you're counting on.
Yes.
Saturdays are days that make or break us.
And this was this was when my business was in a much more fragile position than it is now. I didn't need that hit.
Right.
And I felt like the city sponsored that hit, not just for me, but for all my business neighbors.
Right. I mean, so often outside sponsored, outside organizations, but let's just make it, it's very common that like the city that you're in will plan something and they say, oh, this is going to be great for small business. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is going to be bringing so many people.
But did you ask us?
But did you ask us? And are you bringing in the people that are going to shop at my business? Or are you just assuming that every small business is a gift shop? Mm-hmm. Like a
or a restaurant or a bar, whatever it happens to be. I remember complaining to someone connected to the city at one point about a very detrimental event. And the person in charge of the event said to me, "You don't own downtown." And I was a little bit taken aback because, first of all, I literally do own part of downtown and I'm paying taxes on it.
Right.
Yep. And then all these business neighbors who agreed with me, they also own their buildings.
Right.
And so if we don't own downtown,
who does?
Who does?
Yeah.
And I understand, like, we want to, believe me, as a small business, we want to bring people downtown.
We do.
We want that desperately.
Right.
We are on board for that.
Yes.
But what you consider beneficial for my business may not be what I consider beneficial for my business, and I'd like to be involved in that discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about how street closures are the worst.
Yep.
Oh, man, I hate to see a traffic cone go down.
Yeah.
I hate to see those traffic cones go down and the little signs that say streets will be closed at 3 p.m. 24 hours before your event.
No parking. One time I had no parking signs go up on a Thursday for an event that was on Saturday. So the whole block, no parking for basically 2 days. I mean, not even counting the event day.
Oh,
so
my
3
God.
days.
Yeah, it is. It's maddening. And then for some events, not all events, they have the nerve to call in, like to book vendors from out of area, sometimes out of state. Mm-hmm. They'll hire a corn dog truck, which I'll have you know, I view corn dogs as sacred. But they'll get a corn dog truck from Nowhereville, who knows where, and they'll park it in front of your business so that it completely obscures any
So then
view.
the generator fumes and the noise from the generator
They vent it
and the
right into
smell
your
of
store.
the oil. Literally sometimes. It's ridiculous. Like,
all in the name of having like this street fair, whereas like
to support your business.
To support your business. So then you're just like on the butt side of all these like tents and trucks, just kind of hoping that one of your regulars fights through the crowd to spend $10 for that order they did 2 days ago.
Because the visitors can't see you because the corn dog truck is parked in front of your store.
Right. And you know what? You don't even get a free corn dog.
No.
It's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. So it's like those best intentions sometimes, like they sound good on paper, but it's so frustrating when these events come up that are sponsored by the city or a bigger organization and they just really have taken no time to get to know the needs or the demographic of the small businesses that they are saying that they're going to support. But, you know, that's just me.
Right. But then here we are, like, just like, and really, like, I feel grateful for the good intentions that might be behind these efforts.
You don't have to say that, Beth. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Just want to take the edge off this thing a little bit.
Smoothing it over.
But I'm not actually being sarcastic.
No,
I am grateful for anybody who thinks that they want to invite something into the city that is going to benefit the residents of the city and its small businesses. Those intentions are golden, and I'm grateful for them. But actually, why don't you check with us?
Yeah, because we own downtown. Yeah, and so now that we've bitched about all the things that we don't like about events, let's talk about what makes an event a slam dunk.
Okay,
for us as a small business.
And on something positive.
Yeah, let's end on a high note. You know, why not? What makes an event a slam dunk for you, whether it's in store or like community wide?
I do feel like events can lend you an opportunity to engage with your customers on a deeper level. And get to know them and have them get to know you and kind of weave the fabric of togetherness, which I know sounds so eye-rolly, but I know. But that is what it's all about.
Yes,
that is what it's all about, is weaving the fabric of community.
I had to make a fart noise, but I do agree with you.
What do you like about what is a good event in your mind?
I think a good event in my mind is when there's enough runway to let a large amount of people know it's happening. Mm-hmm. I love 3 to 6 months in advance. We're talking about it and we're planning it. And like really communicating with the businesses and asking them, what would work for them to capitalize on the event. Mm-hmm. So like, I've really enjoyed the community events that happen when someone from the community emails me and says, hey, this is going to be a really busy day. We're expecting a lot of people. What would bring people in for you? Should we advertise that you want to do a discount on a product? Should we advertise that you have baked goods in an inspected kitchen? Should we advertise, that you got live music, or like what would work for you?
Yes.
And that to me goes a long way, because then I have a way to choose. I can choose to do something that takes more work, or I can just say, you know what? Thanks for asking. I'm just going to be open that day and enjoy the extra bustle. Mm-hmm. You have the choice and you don't feel guilty.
Or dictated to. Yes. I think that, boiling it down, it's just good communication. And when an event takes the extra time to send those emails and say, okay, if you want to, great. If you don't, great. We'll catch you the next time. I like when there is open, kind communication. Yeah. And options, because I don't like, and I'm sure you don't, nobody probably likes when, say, an entity says there's going to be an event Friday night and it's going to be from 7 to 10 p.m. and you need to be open.
Yeah.
Because demanding.
Like hell I do. Yeah, that's when like the old grumpy man comes out in me.
Yeah, so you can decide or not. It make sense for you to be open and staff it?
I think the only thing we didn't touch on was, planning events for your own space. What makes those events really good? Like when you're the one planning the event, what makes or break that event for you? Like what's a good one for you? What's a bad one? Is it just people coming through the door and shopping, or is it?
I think, it doesn't necessarily have to be about making a lot of money that day.
Yeah.
I think that's what I meant earlier about weaving community. It's like, do I get to know people? Are they going to remember me for this thing in the future? Is it good for the visiting artist or maker if I have one?
Yes.
Do they get a sense of satisfaction out of it? Do they feel like they've been promoted and highlighted enough?
Right. Right.
Whether or not I sell an extra few $100s does not necessarily mean that I'm thrilled or
not thrilled. Right.
It's sort of an investment.
I would agree. I think my best events, the ones that stand out in my mind, I'm very grateful when we hold events. There's usually one or two people who'll do some shopping. Mm-hmm. But the ones that stand out in my mind are when the people come together and they just have a really nice time connecting with each other, connecting with us, learning something new, trying something different. I think really, again, now it's my turn to sound cheesy. But that's what stands out in my mind. And that's what I hope to get back to this year with our own events. Mm-hmm. But one step at a time.
All right. Well, it's been nice to see you after such a long break.
I would say the same about you. It You're looking great.
Thanks.
Love your insights.
Your wisdom. Yeah.
I do have one more question.
Sure.
Would we have been friends in high school, Beth?
Oh, my good God. Well, you didn't even go to high school, did you?
Okay, that's not the question.
No.
I don't think we would have been.
You don't?
I don't know. I think I would not have been cool enough for you. I think you were more badass than I was.
I don't think probably that's true.
No?
No, I don't think that's true.
I don't know. You had a lot of fun at the grocery store with you had a lot of stories.
I'm worried
about the Garden of Delights.
I'm like, I can't even now I'm worried that we wouldn't have been friends and that maybe we're not even friends now. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Well, that's why I wanted to ask it. I just wanted to give you something to toss and turn about.
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know. But that came to me as I was walking over today, and I was like, would we have been friends in high school?
Well, I think I can answer with more authority since you didn't go to Real People High School. I know more about high school than you, and I'm just going to go with yes.
All right, I'll accept it. I want to think that we would be.
I'll tell you why we would have been, because first of all, you would have been thrifting outfits, which is just what I was doing in high school.
That's true.
You would have been listening to music that was not necessarily mainstream, which is what I was doing in high school. And you would have been reading like obscure 19th century Gothic novels, which is what I was doing in high school.
This is true. All right, fine. Yes. We would have been bosom buddies.
BFF.
Love that.
We chat about the biz, it is the way it is. Thank you for understanding.
We sincerely thank you for understanding. Please visit us at tyfupod.com to learn more about the show, share prompt ideas, or tell us about your own small business experiences. We may include your story in a future episode. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at TYFUpod or at tyfupod.com. Our theme music was composed by Marilla Gonzalez. The show is produced by Kelly Walker. Too bad for Kelly Walker. We'll just edit the hell out of it later, Marilla.
Yeah.
Kelly loves that.